Ladies and gentlemen, reacting to UFC 315, where we saw Jack Della Maddalena being crowned the new welterweight champion. We saw Valentina Shevchenko successfully defend her belt against Manon Fiorot. We saw the retirement of Jose Aldo, which absolutely sucked, but it is understandable. And we also saw the emergence of a new potential number one contender within the flyweight division. A lot of talking points with regards to this card. So yeah, gonna get into it right away. Just a friendly reminder before I do so, if you enjoy the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It really goes a long way in helping the growth of this channel, and I would really appreciate it. So starting off, the card UFC 315 early prelims, the first fight, Brad Katona versus Bekzat Almakhan. Baptism via fire for Brad Katona, due to the fact that, listen, Almakhan had his timing down to a T very early on, which is alarming for Brad Katona, because usually this alludes to a lack of development with regards to Brad's game, due to the fact that your opponent obviously watches tape and he can get your timing down that quickly. It is alarming. Also caught Brad with almost the very same uppercut that he eventually knocked him out with. Sent him home, which luckily for Brad wasn't forcing, that the fight was in Canada. Alarming signs, but an incredible performance for Bekzat Almakhan. He looked as sharp as you could possibly look in 64 seconds. And then we went on to the second fight. We saw Daniel Santos versus Zhong Yong Lee. And listen, Daniel Santos, usually a bantamweight, fought at featherweight in this fight, looked really impressive. I thought Lee was going to win this fight, but then Daniel Santos, incredible boxing, mixed it up well, using his takedowns, really dominated the fight. Third round, no defense was seen in the third round. Both guys just swinging, wanting to get the finish, and they ate. Listen, both men ate some shots. And how they survived, I don't know. It is a mystery, but it was a really good fight. And I thought, yeah, this is playing out to be a really good card. And yeah, it just continuously kept on rolling. Third fight, Marc-Andre Barrieu versus Bruno Silva. Devastating knockout for Marc-Andre Barrieu, knocking out Bruno Silva in the second minute. An ungodly elbow knocked him out, landed a couple of punches on the ground as well. Bruno Silva was out to the extent where, yeah, listen, they had to cart him to the ambulance and then to the hospital. Luckily, Bruno Silva is okay. He's gonna make a full recovery. Just, it was brutal. Marc-Andre Barrieu didn't even really want to celebrate, because after the whole sequence, he looked over, he saw Bruno Silva still unconscious, which was worrying. It was like silent. Everybody thought what was going on. Luckily, as I mentioned, he recovered, and that was the end of the early prelims. Then we moved on to the preliminary card. Modestas Bukauskas versus Ian Cutelaba. Now, Modestas won officially. Unofficially, I think Ian Cutelaba won this fight. I had Ian Cutelaba. I had it 29-28. First two rounds I gave to Ian Cutelaba. If I was generous, I gave the third round to Modestas. Now listen, I had a parlay with Modestas in. So, me saying that Modestas lost that fight, I'm being genuine. I'm not being biased whatsoever, trying to be objective. Ian Cutelaba won that fight. That is a robbery. This was a robbery. If you look at the fight, I don't necessarily thought it was close. Ian Cutelaba in the very first round, the second round as well, just had more volume, constantly moved forward, threw more. I don't know how we got to this result. And seeing that DC and everybody in commentary was also perplexed, I think universally Ian Cutelaba won this fight. Officially, Modestas did. Yeah. Did he though? Did he? But then we went on to the next fight. We saw Jessica Andrade versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. And listen, heading into this fight, Jessica Andrade said that, only a truck would be able to take her down. And you know what Jasmine did? Rocked up there, looking like this, took the cat, took Jessica Andrade down relatively easily. Didn't look like a lot of effort, then continued to submit Jessica Andrade. An insane performance for Jasmine Jasud Vicious, or Jazz the Vicious rather. And, she got a performance of the night bonus as well. Really, really warranted. An impressive performance for Jasmine. Being able to take Andrade down that easily, and then also being able to submit her that easily. A really good performance for Jasmine. And I think, listen, so Jasmine and Natalia, who was fighting on the main card, they fought in I believe it was Natalia's debut within the UFC. We could potentially see that again, and I would want to see that again, just due to the fact that there's history. Both women are looking really good within the flyweight division. We need to see that. I'll be in to see that. But then prelims, main event for the prelims, Mike Malott versus Charles Radke. A really impressive performance for Mike. Seeing that the last time they fought in Canada, he lost to Neil Magny. An underwhelming performance that was from Mike, but then, redemption. Full redemption for Mike Malott. In the first round, looked really good. Caught Charles with a couple of punches. Second round, first 20 minutes. Left hook, sent Charles down, and then proceeded to knock him out cold. Really impressive. After that, the Canadian fans absolutely went berserk. And I don't know, I felt good. I wasn't even rooting for Mike, wasn't rooting for Charles either, just objectively watching the fight. And I felt good. Those Canadian fans just going mental after Mike Malott sat on top of the cage with the flag. It was beautiful. It was genuinely beautiful. I'm not even, like I mentioned, not even a Mike Malott fan per se. But yeah, watching that, it gave me goosebumps. It was the perfect send-off for the prelims heading into the main card. Could not ask for a better send-off heading into the main card. Then main card started. We saw Benoit Saint-Denis versus Karl Propolic. Benoit being French, speaking French, obviously, that's how it works, against Karl Propolic, who is Canadian. But is it just me, or did it feel like a lot of people were behind Benoit rather than Karl? Even though Karl's Canadian, it felt like the majority of fans was rooting for Benoit Saint-Denis. And he did not disappoint. First round took Karl down. No, Karl had a potential Kimura. Benoit shut that down. Looked really dominant. Press forward. Second round, same thing. Just constant pressure. Landing good shots. Was able to take Karl Propolic down. Now, with regards to my predictions, I had four fights that I correctly predicted, and one that I just whiffed on. And it's the worst one, if I'm being honest, and I'll get into that later. But I said Benoit was going to win this fight. I thought via unanimous decision. I didn't see a knockout, just because Karl Propolic and his defense is really solid. He has good striking as well. I didn't see a Benoit Saint-Denis knockout. I did see a submission. I said I was picking unanimous decision, but I thought that the possibility of submission is there, just due to the fact that we saw Benoit submit Gabriel Bonfim. We saw him submit other opponents within the UFC as well, so he is a genuine submission threat, and he proved that as well. Submitting Karl Propolic in the second round, a good victory for Benoit Saint-Denis. He's back on the win column, reminder that he lost to Dustin Poirier. After that, he lost to Renato Moicano via that doctor stoppage. A really good performance for Benoit Saint-Denis, back on the win column. I think he was being fed, if I'm being honest, but it is what it is. Every fight going in, there's a 50-50 chance. Even though we have odds, anything can happen. So, yeah, Benoit Saint-Denis, impressive victory. And then the second fight, we saw Alexa Grasso versus Natalia Silva, women's flyweight division. I thought that Natalia would win this fight, just due to the fact that Alexa, predominantly, she's a boxer. She needs to get close to really be able to put it on Natalia. And I thought, seeing everything, analyzing Alexa, analyzing Natalia, I didn't think that Alexa would get close, just due to the fact that Natalia constantly circles. Her foot movement. Listen, people say this was boring. If you understand how technical this was, with regards to how good Natalia Silva was in this fight, you would be singing a different song. She looked, if I turn Natalia into a man, now we know obviously society if I turned Natalia into a man and I moved her up, I had her fight at 135. She looked, her footwork looked like prime Dominic Cruz. That's how good her footwork is. Constantly circling whenever Alexa felt like she got close. Basically caught her. Natalia caught Alexa, moved out of the pocket in the blink of an eye. It was insane. And Alexa ate massive shots, especially left check hooks Natalia threw. She was impressive. Now, is that impressive enough to be the next number one contender? Yeah, possibly, but obviously I'll get into that a little bit later on. I said Natalia Silva by unanimous decision. I didn't think any woman would get, knocked out, and yeah, basically predicted it correctly, which is obviously satisfying. But yeah, Natalia Silva looked really impressive, and yeah, Alexa just didn't have anything for her. Alexa in the third round, she kind of did what she needed to do for the entire fight. But I don't even think Alexa, with her preparation, was expecting Natalia to be that fast, to be that good, to circle that good, and basically stay out of danger for 15 minutes. There wasn't one point where I thought, yeah, this prediction is in jeopardy. Not one. So yeah, Natalia Silva, impressive win. Third fight, we saw Jose Aldo against Aiemann Zahabi. And I thought, I predicted Zahabi to win this fight. Now he didn't. Yeah, he didn't. However, this is not a robbery. But Buskauskas versus Kutalaba is a robbery. This is not a robbery. This is a close fight that could have gone either way. And I thought it went the wrong way. We saw Jose Aldo, and it wasn't at bantamweight, even though it was initially scheduled for bantamweight, due to the fact that Aldo missed weight. Didn't miss weight by half a pound, 1 pound, 1.5 pounds, 8 pounds, which is a lot. And listen, this is basically what I want to get down to is Aiemann didn't win the fight. However, it felt like he deserved to win the fight. He deserved some luck. Because Zahabi said that he would still take this fight, and they basically had to maneuver it in such a way that this fight could still take place. Aiemann Zahabi ended up cutting more weight than Aldo did. So going into this fight had a massive disadvantage. I don't think people fully understand how much of an impact not cutting weight or not cutting as much weight has on a fighter. If you took, hypothetically, here we go, if you took two fighters, both of them are 170 pounds, right, naturally, walk around at 170 pounds, you told the one that he can stay at 170. You told the other one that he has to drop weight, cut weight, to let's say about 155, and then basically be weighing in at 155 2 or 3 days prior, and then he can replenish himself. If those two fought 10 times, 9 out of the 10 times, the fighter that didn't cut weight would win. Guarantee it. Due to the fact that your body didn't go through, let's just call it, all of that trauma. You obviously don't have to recover. You are walking around at your natural weight, staying at your natural weight. Your, energy stores, or energy storages rather, they basically don't have to get accustomed to a different weight. You don't lose a lot of that energy, basically just to try and replenish all of that energy in hours. Now, the reason why people cut weight is because if you walk around at 155 and you fight at 155, you will probably most of your life fight people that weigh way more than you do, because you'll probably end up fighting 170 pounders. So then you obviously have a massive disadvantage because you're fighting at 155. Your opponent weighs in at 155, but on fight night he actually weighs 170. So you're basically fighting out of your weight class, meaning that your opponent's going to be stronger. He's going to have more power. And yeah, do you want to deal with that? Especially, imagine you're fighting someone like Khabib, who is as dominant of a wrestler as we've ever seen within the sport, and he has a weight advantage on you as well, you will lose. So basically, that's why we are stuck in this, I'd say, this limbo where we have people cutting weight, and basically right now it's about who cuts weight the best. But anyway, back to the point. Aiemann Zahabi had a massive disadvantage going into this fight. So I think that he deserved luck. Not saying that it was all luck. I mean, he did win the third round. I hope everybody agrees on the fact that Aiemann Zahabi won the third round. Even though he got dropped, I mean, he put a beating on Aldo. So Zahabi won the third round. I thought Aldo won the first and second round due to the fact that he threw more in the first round. He threw harder in the second round. He looked good in those first two rounds. I thought Zahabi won the third round. I didn't think that it was possible to warrant Zahabi with a 10-8 just due to the fact that he got dropped. If Zahabi didn't get dropped in the third round and he put that beating on Aldo, you could have said 10-8. And I would say that a draw was then, was justified. But yeah, Aiemann ended up winning the fight. I predicted Aiemann to win the fight. I said unanimous decision. Didn't think that either man would get knocked out. Now obviously Aiemann was in massive danger of getting knocked out, but this was also at featherweight and it wasn't at bantamweight because obviously of Aldo not being able to cut weight, they rescheduled the fight at featherweight. And massive props for Aiemann Zahabi for taking this fight. Yeah, you're fighting one of the best men ever to do it within the featherweight division. And he didn't cut weight basically as much as you did. So you're going to be replenished. You're not going to be as, let's say, accustomed to your natural weight as the other fighter that didn't cut as much weight. He's going to have more power, probably going to be better with regards to everything translates better because it's at his natural weight. Impressive performance for Aiemann Zahabi. I don't think he won the fight, but I think he deserved luck to get the win. We saw Jose Aldo retire due to the fact that he said that his body just doesn't feel like it can go through all of these, transitions with regards to cutting weight. He said that his body failed him, and that's the thing. You might not want to retire from the sport, but at some point the sport will try and retire you. And they say Father Time is undefeated. Now the only person that has been able to basically pay their due to Father Time was Volk, seeing that he was able to win the belt once again. But for everybody else, the same doesn't apply. Now, Aldo looked really good. I've said that I felt Aldo won his previous fight. He obviously fought Mario Batista, and I thought Aldo won that fight. I thought he was unlucky to not get that win. Once again, unlucky to not get the win against Aiemann Zahabi. So, in a different world, in a different universe, beating Jonathan Martinez, beating Mario Batista, beating Zahabi, Aldo would be 3-0 in his last 3 fights. So it's not about the performance. It's about getting to the octagon, getting to the fight, everything that he needs to do to get there. And yeah, it sucks. It honestly sucks. We're never going to see Jose Aldo again. We're never going to see the King of Rio again. But I'm just glad he went out in this way, where he looked really good. And we didn't see him forced into retirement, which happens to a lot of guys, which is currently happening to Tony Ferguson. So, yeah, listen, it sucks. Aldo will forever be within the Hall of Fame of the UFC, forever be an iconic figure with regards to featherweight and with regards to the UFC. But yeah, you could not fault him for deciding that he's gonna retire from the sport. Then co-main event, Valentina Shevchenko, Manon Fiorot, and I thought Valentina would win via unanimous decision. I thought that she'd be able to expose a certain weakness of Manon, which I thought was her wrestling. Turns out Manon's solid. Manon was good. And listen, I've seen a lot of people that say that Valentina lost this fight, which is insane. Now I understand that Manon had control time, like clinch control time against the fence for the majority of like within every round of the fight, right? I get that. We cannot incentivize people to do this because usually the argument would be, listen, if you like striking, just go watch kickboxing. I can throw the exact same argument back at you. If you're one of those people, I can say, listen, if you enjoy grappling or wrestling, just go watch wrestling. We cannot incentivize people to basically use grappling without a means to finish a fight, without a means to do damage, because that's what fighting is about. Fighting is about doing damage. Are we all accepting that is without a doubt, unequivocally, the goal of fighting is to inflict damage? Whenever you hear a friend was in a fight, what's the first thing you look for when you see them? Damage. What's on the how does that person look? Does he have a swollen eye? Is there blood dripping from his face? And basically on that visual representation that you see, you basically, come to the conclusion that he win or that he lose a fight. Even though nobody scores it, even though nobody cares, you basically see your friend, oh, he doesn't have any damage. Oh, I guess you won the fight. Oh, he looks horrible. Yeah, I guess you lost. Damage has to be the main priority and the main focal point when judging a fight. Because that's basically the reason why or not the reason, but that's basically the main criteria of seeing how a fight is going. If you and I had to fight, hypothetically, or let's say anyone, let's say person A, person B gets into a fight. Person A absolutely destroys person B with regards to punches. He opens up person B, breaks his nose, but person B then saw he was in a lot of trouble, shot for a takedown, and they basically just had this weird scuffle on the ground where person A is grabbing on his shirt and throwing some things or strikes, and eventually people come and they break them up. Who do you think won that fight in the eyes of everybody that saw it? The person that wasn't bleeding, didn't have his nose broken. And that's the problem, is people say that this fight was boring and Valentina is boring. Valentina did damage. Valentina ended up damaging Manon Fiorot and ended up, potentially breaking her nose. We saw blood dripping from her face in the second round. So, Valentina, okay, now I understand she won that round. The rest of the fight, all Manon did was basically clinch Valentina up against the fence, landed a few thigh strikes, which wasn't devastating. You couldn't see any visible damage on Valentina with regards to her thighs. So how could you warrant that part as being dominant and somebody deserves to win a fight based on that? Because then it's not fighting, then it's grappling. It's the same argument that people like to throw at people that, you only want to watch striking, then go watch. No, I want to watch wrestling. I want to watch Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I want to watch grappling. I want to watch all of it with the means of finishing a fight. That's the whole point of fighting, isn't it? To inflict damage. Then how would you justify wanting to inflict damage if you have your opponent up against the fence? You are the heavier person. Manon Fiorot looked way bigger than Valentina Shevchenko. So she basically used her weight, also, not to inflict damage, but basically to win a fight on points, because they are incentivized to win the fight that way. We should stop giving points or giving credit to people that grapple without the means of doing damage with their grappling, without doing damage with their wrestling. It doesn't make sense, because in a fight, an actual fight, a street fight or whatever, their opponent wouldn't be in danger. And they probably wouldn't fight that way in a street fight, which goes to show that they're basically using the system. Make sense? I hope it makes sense. But speaking about Valentina and her next opponent, I honestly think. Okay, so a couple of questions. Do you think that Valentina could ever become the greatest woman fighter of all time? Do you think that there would ever be a chance for her to surpass Amanda Nunes? Because they already fought twice, and Valentina ended up losing both. Now you can say that she won the first fight or she won the second fight. Officially, she lost both. So could she ever surpass Amanda Nunes with regards to being the greatest woman fighter of all time? And if the answer is yes, if you think that she can, then the way and the means for her to do so would probably be to fight the third best woman fighter of all time. And I hope this is unanimous as well. And that person being Zhang Weili. If Valentina beats Zhang Weili, then I think her case to be the greatest woman fighter of all time it's a good case to make if she beats Zhang Weili. But the problem is a massive risk, because if Zhang ends up beating Valentina, I think Zhang surpasses her, and I think Zhang could actually have a case to make for being the greatest woman fighter of all time. So, but that has to be next. Listen, Natalia Silva was really impressive, and I think that she could potentially fight for the belt. She's gonna have to work on her grappling, because Valentina is going to wrestle with Natalia Silva. So I think Natalia is warranted to be the number one contender. I do think that we need to see Zhang Weili versus Valentina next. Even in the post-fight press conference, they spoke to Valentina, and she alluded to the fact that Zhang did congratulate her and that Zhang wants to fight her. We need that. We definitely need that. That would be as big of a woman fight ever within the sport. Surely. Because you have arguably the second best woman fighter of all time fighting, this is my opinion, fighting arguably the third best woman fighter of all time. What's not to like? That everybody wants to see it. I think we need it. I genuinely think we need it. It would be insane. Zhang Weili also transitioned to a much heavier wrestling, style. The same Valentina did. Both women coming into the UFC predominantly striking. Now they've moved to wrestling just due to the fact that it's safer for themselves. They don't, you don't take that much of a risk whenever you engage in wrestling with your opponent. We will see who is the better wrestler. And I'm all for it. We saw Zhang Weili be dominant against Tatiana Suarez. We saw Valentina Shevchenko beat Manon. So, yeah, I think we need to see that. But then, main event, Belal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. This is the one I got wrong. I told you to basically bet your uncle Belal's winning by decision. Now, hopefully you didn't do that, because you would have one less uncle. But it was odd seeing Belal and the way that he approached it. He spoke about, showing Canelo hands, which turned out to be Canelo hands down the worst way he could have approached this. Because, listen, nobody in their right mind on planet Earth thought that Belal had better hands than JDM. And if you did, you need to go see a therapist for at least a year. And then basically, you need to go to rehab. Because there is no way anyone thought Belal would piece up JDM on the feet. Now, even though he did do damage, but it's because of other reasons. It's because of other factors. Belal basically looked at JDM and looked at his biggest advantage and said, yeah, I'm going to fight you there. It didn't make sense at all. I thought we would see the same Belal we did against Leon. Now, respectfully, this version of JDM was light years ahead of Leon in that version of Leon in that fight with Belal. But I thought that we would see Belal mix it up from the get-go, constantly move forward, pressure JDM, have him up against the fence, throw strikes, mix in a takedown, have him down, he can stand up, doesn't matter. He's basically draining himself. I thought we would see that version of Belal. And I think DC highlighted it and did a great job of it. Because that's how sport goes. Once Belal didn't do that from the start, it allowed JDM to grow in confidence. And the thing about sport, and especially combat sport, is confidence and momentum. They have a symbiotic relationship and they go parallel with one another. Where the more you believe in yourself, the more confidence you gain, the more momentum you're going to get with regards to the fight. The better you're going to feel, the more momentum you're going to get. The more momentum you get, the more confidence you get. So it's basically the symbiotic relationship between one another in this parallel line. And that's basically what it was. Once Belal didn't take JDM down immediately and basically, had his way, imposed his will on Jack grew in confidence. He started to move better. His footwork was a problem for Belal. And basically, it was just this snowball where Jack just grew in confidence, momentum came along, more confidence, more momentum, and Belal just couldn't stop that. Couldn't stop that unstoppable force with regards to momentum. And if this was the game plan going into this fight, where the game plan, let's say, Belal perfectly executed the game plan going into this fight. Whoever devised this game plan needs to be accountable. Now listen, I rooted for Jack Della Maddalena. I obviously picked Belal, but I rooted for JDM. But this was, from a Belal fan's perspective, this was diabolical. This was diabolical work. Because Belal thought he had Canelo hands, and someone had to say, yeah, Belal, you do, buddy. You could take on JDM in a striking battle, and you would win. So we will do that to show how dominant you are. Are you insane? There is probably in the division right now, pure boxing, nobody beats JDM. No one. His boxing is that slick. Head movements that slick. Footwork is that slick. And he has power as well. And yeah, once again, some people thought Belal won. I don't know whether that is rage bait or people just genuinely that deluded. No one thought Belal won. I saw Jeremy Stevens thought Belal won. What? How? If we look at damage, if we look at significant strikes, JDM won that fight, and I thought he won it unanimously and convincingly. I had 4-1 for JDM. Keep in mind, had money on Belal. So yeah. But heading into this fight, it was the welterweight division a couple of months ago, I'd say probably a month ago, was in dire straits due to the fact that there wasn't any, number one contenders solidifying themselves as being such and raising their hand saying, listen, I am a genuine threat within this division. We saw Sean Brady dominate Leon. I thought that was good for the division. We saw Ian Gary take that fight against Prates, which was also really good for the division. Showed how good Gary was, showed how dangerous Prates was. And now we saw, JDM beating Belal, which basically takes Belal from the pedestal down and, somewhat moves JDM up. But now we have a level playing field with regards to a lot of fighters. Let's say we have about 6 fighters within the welterweight division right now who's basically on the same level. And we can make the argument, okay, JDM is champ, he's a touch higher. But I mean, we have Belal, we have Gary, we have Carlos Prates. Even though Gary beat Prates, I think they're very close to one another. I just think that it's inexperience that did Prates in, but Gary won that fight. So we have Belal, Gary, Prates, Shevchenko, who's injured. Could potentially see Joaquin Buckley against Kamaru Usman. Winner of that fight would also probably be in that category. Just, it's great for the welterweight division. Not necessarily that Belal had to lose, but it's great for the division. It just feels like the division is fairly contested and we have a lot of potential number one contenders within that division. But the main talking point, JDM won. So now Islam Makhachev is gonna move up to welterweight and fight Jack Della Maddalena to be two division champion. Now imagine Jack came out and said, "Yeah, listen, Islam, I can't give you the fight. You have to prove yourself within the division first." That would absolutely blow my mind. If JDM gave the same treatment to Islam than Islam gave to Ilya, that would be insane. But and listen, then you will hear the people with the double standard. Basically, you will hear the people say, "Yeah, but Islam is more proven." Not within welterweight, he isn't. Just the same as Ilya is not proven within lightweight, he doesn't need to be proven in that weight division. He is a dominant champion in his own. Therefore, he doesn't have to prove himself in the other weight division because it is a one-off fight. If he loses, it's one-off. He won't be there again. If he wins, he will stay in that division. He doesn't have to prove anything within that division. The same way no double champion ever in UFC history had to prove themselves in that division first. Not DC, not John Jones, not Conor, not Amanda, not GSP. After I think it was a 3-year layoff, GSP immediately fought for the title at middleweight, fought Michael Bisping. So Islam's argument from the start was horse. It was dog's water. It was the worst argument you've ever heard in your life. I mean, Ilya beat Volk convincingly, who is, by the way, greatest featherweight of all time. Yeah, Islam beat him, not at his natural weight class, not at his preferred weight class. So Islam has the one up. Ilya has the one up over Islam in that way. Also ended up knocking out Max Holloway, who no one has done ever. So every argument Islam made for Ilya not being worthy was the probably the biggest load of horseshit you will ever hear in your life. And now Jack has to do the same thing. He has to say, "Listen, Islam, yeah, you've been great. You've been undefeated for 10 years. Ilya's still undefeated, by the way. Yeah, you've had like 5 title defenses, which is the most in UFC history. Well, let's keep in mind the last title defense was against the number 9 or 10 ranked lightweight. You have to prove yourself within welterweight first." Yeah, we would see a worldwide, I don't even know what to call it, a worldwide protest from Islam fans. The world would be anarchy if JDM did that. But that would be the best thing that I've probably seen in the UFC. Is JDM treating Islam the same way Islam treated Ilya. But now basically Islam's gonna move up, fight JDM. Ilya's already there, and he's gonna fight Charles. Ilya made a good point. Asked Islam, "Now listen, are you gonna vacate your belt the same way I did?" No, he's not, because Islam's obviously gonna come back at lightweight and fight there as well. But we're probably gonna see Ilya versus Charles, and we'll probably see Islam versus JDM. Now listen, Islam fans, this is the problem. I'm not an Islam fan. I'm not an Islam hater either. If I watch Islam fights, I enjoy them. I enjoy Islam's personality, but just because I do not chant for him at the top of my lungs, I am a hater. For all of the Islam fans, this will not be easy. This is probably, on paper, the toughest fight Islam could take is against JDM. He's bigger. He showed that he handles pressure very well, is comfortable fighting off the back foot, had good wrestling and takedown defense against Belal, and he strikes at a much higher level. He's basically a welterweight version of Dustin Poirier. I'd say he's better. He's better than Dustin. Dustin at lightweight, JDM at welterweight. I think JDM is better than Dustin. A serial winner, respectfully, with regards to Dustin Poirier. Jack is a serial winner. And we saw that his preparation is really good. So Islam's not going to be able to take Jack down at will. He's going to have to stand and strike with him at some point. And it's going to be the hardest puncher he's ever faced in his life. Unanimously. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, that's basically my take on UFC 315. Let me know in the comment section which fight surprised you the most? Which outcome surprised you the most? And listen, Jack and Belal got five on the night. Do you think that's warranted? Performance of the night was Jasmine, as well as, well, I can't remember the other one. Yeah, sorry for that. Let me know in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button. I would really appreciate it. Have a beautiful day, and I'll catch you in the next one.